Discover the good money revolution, how to make more money to do more good, in today's episode with Derrick Kinney. And he's America's financial educator. And he has a knack for making complex financial topics refreshingly easy. And he's regularly seen on Fox, CNN, CNBC, and bringing insights from Wall Street to Main Street. And he's the author of the book, Good Money Revolution, How to Make More Money to Do More Good. The first question I have is, what's the secret to your success? And does it have anything to do with learning how to make more money and use it to do more good?
Welcome to Awakened Titans podcast with Lily Patrascu. Mind-blowing conversations with influential business titans sharing how you can manifest abundance, love, joy, success through quantum awakening, quantum manifestation, quantum healing, quantum miracles, exponential business growth, and innovative products and services.
Well, money definitely plays a part in that. But, it's interesting, Lily. I like to take a step back and ask myself, why did I want money in the first place? What was the personal pain point I was struggling with that I felt money was the medicine to help me solve that? And I go all the way back to when I first became a financial advisor. I had this aha moment. I was so young. I was 26. I looked like I was 13. I asked myself, who in the world would invest with a young guy like me? And what I realized was I began to give back to my local high school and recognize a teacher of the month and a student of the month. I just loved how it made me feel. But I realized when I was in high school, no successful person ever came back to high school to give the students a glimpse of what their future could look like. They just were told, get a good grade in history and math and science, all the stuff that nobody liked. They really wanted to do business and make money. And as I began to present this award, I got a phone call a couple months later from a woman, and what she said changed how I viewed business and really business success. She said, Derrick, we know you're young, we know you're new, but we trust you. You know what you're talking about. We want to work with you because you care about what we care about. And it was those words that pierced me so deeply that realized I didn't have to be the most well-connected or the best looking or have the biggest bank account to launch my business. I just simply needed to care about what the people I most wanted to work with cared about. And it so happened it was supporting local education, investing in the lives of young people. And what I found was affluent people, the very clients I most wanted, they assumed I knew what I was doing, but what really made them feel good was working with a professional who was making their community better and helping solve the pain points in the community that they also felt worried about as well.
Thank you. Why do you feel there is a need for a good money revolution?
Well, it's so important because as I talk to professionals all over the country, as I'm on a stage or I'm interviewed on TV, ultimately it comes down to what motivates people to make money. And so many people buy into this lie. And the lie goes, if I have a bulging bank account, if I have 2 commas in my investment portfolio, if I have the nice car, the big house, then I'll be happy. And people will do whatever it takes to get there. They'll throw their family to the side. They'll disregard their kids. They'll spend 24 hours a day grinding to reach the goal they think will give them happiness. And then some of them get there. Most of them don't. But some of them that do get there, they look around and there's nobody there with them. There's nobody at the peak of the mountain that most needs to be with them during that time. And they're lonely. And they realize, I'm not as happy as I thought I would be. And I realized I wanted to change that for people, especially the business owners and entrepreneurs listening right now who are putting it all on the line. They're putting in the hours, they're making the sacrifices, they're being questioned, they're being misunderstood by their friends as to what they're doing. I want them to feel meaning as they're making money. And so as I like to say, how do we combine purpose to your profits and meaning to your money and a cause to your cash? And what I would ask each of our listeners is, what's a cause that you care deeply about? When you pull up at a stoplight and a homeless person has that cardboard sign, does that really bother you? or when you see someone who doesn't have the food they need, or when you see someone struggling right now, whether they're a young person who just needs a semester of community college paid for someone to believe in them, or whatever the pain point is that you have, ask yourself, what could you do to tie that cause to your business? And so many people I work with, we've helped them figure out, look, if I can increase my sales by a certain amount, I'll then give a portion of that increase to the cause I believe in. So now it's not just motivated about, I want to build my bank account. Now it's how much can I contribute to the cause that can help change people's lives. And that's ultimately the best motivation, that when people lay their head on the pillow at night, they feel like they've lived a day of purpose and meaning. And that's what keeps them going.
Thank you. Do you find that by doing that, do you attract more abundance as well? Or is it just, it just makes you feel great to contribute to a cause that you deeply care about?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And so many people make it sound like that if you give, it's this win-lose scenario. So if I give, money is leaving my bank account and it's going to someone else's account so that they can win. It's this win-lose. And what I talk about in the book, and it's so true, is especially for professionals who they're not relying on a salary, it's up to them to make things happen. When they can find that cause they care about, the pie gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And what happens is they first of all set a goal to say, I want to make more money to do more good with it. And once they're doing more good with it, they say, this feels so good, now I want to go make more money to do even more good with it. But here's the magic. This sort of has this trickle-down application to it. There's a guy named Dave that I was a longtime client of mine, and he came in the office a couple years back. And you know those relationships you've got where you can just tell the person's wearing the weight of the world on their shoulders. They don't even have to say anything. You can just sense it. And I said, Dave, what's wrong? And he said, Derrick, I don't feel like I'm excited about going to the office anymore. I feel like I'm just going through the motions. And for some reason, the words just shot out of my mouth. And I said, Dave, is there a cause that you care deeply about? And he sat back and he began to tell me a story. And he said, Derrick, a couple years ago, I took my family overseas. In this particular village they were visiting, the tour guide said, there's so much desperate situation in this area. There's so much poverty that could be alleviated if they only had a dedicated school building for the kids to go to. And he remembered exchanging a glance with his wife as if to say, wouldn't it be cool to fund that school? Well, they get back to the States, life gets busy, hectic, and so forth. But my question brought this all back to him. And I said, Dave, what if you did this? What if you set a goal to increase your sales by 20% this year, and you took half of that increase and used it to fund that school? Well, now his eyes got as big as saucers, and we began to brainstorm how we could do that. So he leaves the office, comes back not 6 months later, but 3 months later, came in early. And I said, Dave, I got to tell you, you look younger, you look more energetic, you look like you're back on your A game. What happened? And he said, Derrick, you really got me excited. You found a way to connect my passion to a purpose I had forgotten about. He mocked up a picture of the school building on his website, and he let his clients know that, hey, you can work with any consultant, but when you work with us, you're helping make the world better. So people did more business with him. They referred more business to him. He was already up 20% in the first 3 months, and he was already halfway through funding that school. And I use Dave as an example. I think a lot of men and women listening can relate to that because they're going through the motions. They're doing all the right stuff. They're making the hard calls. They're up late at night. They're making the tough decisions that most people don't make, but they're not feeling the fulfillment. And what I want to do is, I think the greatest tragedy for business owners right now and entrepreneurs is they're working so hard, but they're not feeling the significance and the meaning I believe they should have along with making a heck ton of money. I believe you can have both. And when you have both, you stay motivated to keep making more money and doing more good simultaneously.
Thank you. Tell us about the good money framework.
So I'm a big believer in structure and systems. I don't like to wing it. When I take the family on a vacation, the worst thing I could ever tell my family would be, hey, I know we've been waiting for this vacation, but we're just going to hop in the car and just see where we end up. People would throw stuff at me. They'd kick me out of the car. It'd be a terrible experience, right? And what I find is when you can give people a simple framework, then it's successful. And the first framework, the first step is, what is a goal that's meaningful to you? So, funny story. I know this may sound crazy, but I lead my family through a family goal setting exercise December 31st every year. We've done this now for 15 years. And when we first did this, this was Dad's great idea of instilling wisdom in my kids. We got 4 children. And they didn't cuss at me, but they came as close as they could back then. But they were like, Dad, this is so boring. We don't want to do this. Well, now they invite their friends to do it because they see the power of goal setting. And I'll have my kids each set a goal in one area of their life. For example, spiritual, physical, personal, business, a family goal. And then we'll talk about how will you feel when you achieve that goal? What emotion will you attach to it? And then most importantly, I'll ask them, what's at stake if you don't achieve that goal? What terrible, no good thing could happen this year because you don't achieve that goal? And then last thing, which is so important, is writing out on a separate note card their ideal year as though it's already happened in present tense. This was my best year ever. Here's what I accomplished. Here's how I felt. And that simple exercise, I actually went down to Office Depot myself yesterday and got my note cards laminated. I made 4 sets of them, one for my office, my car, my nightstand, one in my backpack that I carry, so I can just flip through them and remind myself on a regular basis, what is my personal plan for success? Because life comes at you fast. Life has its own plan, and without your own plan, you're going to be the victim of life's plan, which is typically not the best plan for you. So step number 1, identifying personal and financial goals. Step number 2, what's a cause that you care about? I've talked about that. And step number 3, there's a couple other steps, but these are the big 3, is how much income do you want to make? So many business owners and entrepreneurs I talk with just settle for, I just want to make a lot of money. I just want to make this amount of money. I just want to make 5 times what I was making when I worked for somebody else. But really ask yourself, how much money do you want to make? And now you've got a number in mind. Now there's this goal you're targeting. Now it's just a matter of math of what do I need to do either in the existing business, start another business, have a side gig, charge more, add more value, whatever that is. Now you're honed in on exactly what success looks like for you and your unique goals that you got.
Thank you. What's a good way to overcome negative mindsets related to money?
Well, first of all, just understand that that's normal. There was a woman that came into my office. This was almost 15 years ago. I was actually in the office on a Saturday morning catching up on some stuff. And my voicemail, I was blinking, and I pressed it, and I heard a frantic and panicked woman's voice on the other end of the line. She said, Derrick, I know it's Saturday. I hope you get this message. You got to call me back. They're about to send me to jail, and I don't know what to do. Well, I've never got a message like that before, so I quickly called her back, and she said, Derrick, I got this letter. Now, and what I'm going to tell you is going to sound so minor, but in her mind, this was major. Basically, the letter said it was a non-sufficient funds letter. She hadn't moved money from her savings to checking, wrote a hot check, and now they're going to, quote, send her to jail. And I said, first of all, they're not going to send you to jail, but why in the world did you think that? So she begins to tell me a story about when she was a kid. She overheard her dad receiving a phone call, and basically her dad had gone to the store to buy school supplies for her and her sister, and the store manager said, so-and-so, I know that you bounced this hot check on purpose. I'm going to send the cops to your house and have you arrested. So this was a 7-year-old girl who overheard this conversation. Now she's 55 years old. And that letter brought her back to when she was 7, that if you make a financial mistake, you bounce a check, you do something that could cause a problem, you're going to go to jail. So whatever you do, avoid that possibility at all cost. Now, this was a woman on the outside who looked crazy successful. But on the inside, she was this wilting flower. She never took my advice, which was a problem. It cost her quite a bit of money. But she was always complaining about, I'm never getting the raise I deserve. I'm never getting the promotion I know I'm qualified for. I brought her in the office the next week, and we began to unpack all of these bad money beliefs that she had. Within 3 months, She got a $25,000 a year raise, and she finally got promoted to vice president, which she'd waited on for 10 years, all because she made this little quarter twist in her mind that money does have problems, money does take risk, but you got to go into it knowing that, and that you're not defined by your last financial mistake. You're not defined, you're simply informed by what you'll do better, because you're going to make more financial mistakes if you want to make more money.
Thank you. How can generosity make you wealthy?
You know, it's interesting. So many people think that it's just giving. And by the way, many people are taught I shouldn't even talk about what I give, that giving is done in secret. You know, we don't talk about giving like we don't talk about sex or the government or money. There's all this no talk list, and giving and generosity gets slung onto that list, right? What I find is that generosity is this doorway that people want to walk through. So many clients I worked with as a financial advisor, but for any professional listening, people hire you because you can solve their painful and relatable problem. That's the number one reason why they hire you. They're not hiring you based on your product or services, features, and benefits. Those are commodity items. Everybody has that. But your ability to communicate that you can solve a relatable problem, I can help you not run out of money. I can help you save money. I can help you increase your time. I can help improve your relationships, whatever that may be. They'll pay you for that. But then they typically think that all professionals are the same. That's the reality in most people's minds. And so when you solve the problem, you differentiate yourself. But then when you have a cause that you care about, now what happens is, in the affluent mind, it attracts them more to you. They're often willing to pay more because they are working with someone who's making the world better, and it just makes them feel good. I'll tell you about a quick study done. I talk about this in the book. So there was an ad campaign by a car company, and they asked two sets of people to evaluate both campaigns, and they measured the scientists, how their brains responded to the ad. Okay, so the first ad, the car manufacturer was talking about the features and the benefits and how fast it goes and the colors and all the new features of the car. And they measured the people's brain response to that. And then the second ad, same car, but they talked about how that with each car purchase, a portion would go to support struggling first-time Olympic athletes, giving them the money to train to represent the great USA. And they measured how people's brains responded to that. Okay, so as you might imagine, the brain response to the car ad about features and benefits, the normal stuff, very little, if any, noticeable difference. But where they talked about the Olympians and how the car company would benefit those people with each purchase, get this. I had to read this multiple times, but it said the emotion registered was similar as though they were looking into the eyes of someone they loved. So picture someone that you love deeply and how good you feel looking into their eyes. That was the emotion that registered in the brain of the people watching that ad. And what that taught me was, when you're giving even a small amount, you feel good. But often when you talk about it, and this is the key that most people miss, as a business owner talking about, hey, part of our proceeds is we believe in helping invest in the lives of young people. We believe everyone should have access to clean water. We believe everyone should have access to food, whatever it may be. People then will choose you because of your competence, but they'll choose you for the confidence they have in you because you're also helping make the world better. And it just makes them feel good. It's almost this cachet of respect of, I'm working with this person and they do so much for the community. It makes them look good because they chose to work with you.
Thank you. Tell us about using failure as a fertilizer.
Yeah. So Laura Casey, a good friend of mine, I quote her in the book when she said that. And this is interesting. So studies have shown that the average person, if you're just average, you typically have 3 to 4 crises per year, okay? So, for example, most people are either coming out of a crisis or about to come into one. It might be the air conditioner went out, or I've got a car problem, or I've got an aging parent, or my business is struggling, my son or daughter's having a problem, whatever it is. There's just always crises that come up. I mean, God forbid, all the wildfires, the cold in the South right now, there's all kinds of stuff happening. And then those crises are interrupted by the occasional emergency, meaning that if you're just normal, we're always going in or out of something that's going to cause us possibly some trouble. And what I learned over the years was, if you fight that and you say to yourself, well, once I get past this, then it will get better, it never gets better. But once you begin to just embrace, this is this thing called life, that there's problems and crises, and if I choose to accept those and just know that they're coming and not be completely derailed by them, I will be much more successful. Someone taught me many years ago, there's 3 buckets. There's the bucket of things I can control. There's the bucket of things I have no control over at all. And there's the bucket of things I can influence. And most of life is influence, or the bucket that I can't control. Problems I typically can't control, but I can control how I respond to it. And so when we talk about failure as fertilizer, it's recognizing that we're going to have problems, and especially those listeners right now who have their own business, they're entrepreneurs, they're striving for high goals. You can turn the problem multiplier up by 2 to 3 times, because as an entrepreneur, you're facing things most other people will never even think about and understand the problems you're facing. So know that that's part of the deal that you signed up for. We all did. We're willing problem acceptors and solvers. But it's recognizing that in this problem, what can I learn from it so that I can help minimize the problem next time? Or is this problem so great? And this is the entrepreneurial hack of the whole show, I think, is the problem I'm now faced with also being faced by other entrepreneurs just like me, or by the clients I serve right now, and how can I help find a solution to solve this problem? So now I'm looking forward to actually getting problems, because it's research and development for me to come up with new solutions to those problems. It's like you're thanking God, thank you for the problem, because now I have another opportunity to find a way to make money to solve that very problem. It's all the mind shift and the attitude of how you approach it.
Thank you. How do you turn bad debt into good debt?
Well, 4-letter words are not words we talk about a lot in our house. And one of those words, though, is debt, and specifically credit card debt. And I want to make sure people understand there's a big voice today. I'm not going to name names, but a lot of people say you've got to live on cash only. If you have any debt at all, you're a bad person. You'll never achieve any level of financial success at all. I could not disagree more. But one thing I do agree on is that you don't want to have any revolving credit card balances. The game is you get to use their money for 30 days, and then you make sure that every purchase you make on that credit card, you either have the money already, or there's a very, very high likelihood that the money will be there in 30 days. Because at that point, you've got free money, free access to it. Now, what I will say, and this is where I like debt, and I almost tell people that they have to use debt, is when they expand or buy another business. Think about this. For most people who are not entrepreneurs, their biggest purchase ever is going to be buying a home. Let's just pick a random number, $500,000. How many people do you know that would save up $500,000 before they bought the house? Like nobody. They always finance it. They always finance the house. That's what people do. And so when you begin to think about, look, my business is not like my house. My business has the ability to generate income and cash flow. It has a multiplier that I could sell it and dramatically grow my net worth. Borrowing makes all the sense in the world. I've bought 4 businesses over the years, and I didn't necessarily care about the interest rate. I just cared about what the opportunity was that I was buying. Money was simply a tool to buy more money. And when you think of it like that, debt becomes part of the equation. If I waited to save up to buy all 4 businesses, I'd still be waiting. B, the opportunity would have passed me by and my net worth wouldn't be as high as it is today. The key is you've got to realize that debt, strategically used, not recklessly used, is the name of the game. And I think most entrepreneurs, if they don't already, would agree with that pretty quickly.
Thank you. For those entrepreneurs that, let's say, have done really well for a really long time, and then they went into this spiral of negative stuff. For example, not paying certain credit cards, not paying their mortgage, and that leading up to really terrible credit history all of a sudden, and then their credit card debt being reduced by the bank, and then from then spiraling into like being unable to make regular payments and so on. What would you suggest as the very first step towards building that credit history again so that they can leverage debt in a good way?
Yeah. And the key there is leverage and using it wisely. And, you want to make sure that you're abiding by the rules. Now, most entrepreneurs are rule breakers. Okay, that's what makes them successful. That they're typically the third grade kid who the teacher yelled at because they wouldn't follow directions, but now that third grade teacher is working for the student. It's that type of mentality. So the first thing to do, it's the simplest thing, is get current on your credit card payments. Just get current and make sure that you're not adding to a revolving balance. When you do that, that is step number one, that over the next few months, you'll begin to see your credit score gradually go up. But also, what I would tell people right now is don't let your credit score be what holds you back from more. Okay? If there is a good opportunity and you, your CPA, the people you trust the closest in a mastermind group or the people you go to for advice, and they tell you, hey, even if you have to take money out of your retirement account to buy this, it's a good opportunity. A few people told me that along the way. Then find a way to do it. Even if you have to go to hard money, you've got to pull money out of your own account, because ultimately, and I'm convinced of this, the greatest ROI is betting on you. There's the S&P and there's the S and me. And I find the S and me is typically the better, higher paying, more dividend producing investment than the S&P. Now, is it fraught with risk? Yes. Are there worries and tensions and sleepless nights? Yes. But once you're in the game, when my son bought his first rental property, when I've advised clients to you got to just buy the property. Once you're in it, once you put the money in the investment, everything changes because now you're in the game. And what seemed like the perfect deal never is. There's always things you weren't anticipating, but now your job is to make it as perfect as you can get it and make it successful. So using debt, but using it wisely is the key. You're never going to have enough money to do all the things you want to do with your own money. But with OPM, other people's money, that's a way to really build not just the wealth you want, but help a lot more people who, at stake here, will not live the life they want if you don't give them the problem that can help solve their problems.
Thank you. For those entrepreneurs that don't have the option of having any credit cards because their credit history is so bad, what would you have them do? The very first step to kind of regain that trust from banks, from credit cards, from like creditors?
Well, ultimately, what can you control, and then what can you influence the quickest? How I would approach that would be, the economic system is credit-based. It's all credit-based. If you want to buy a home, a car, if you want to get a loan from the bank, it's all based on your credit score and credit history. You may not have the time you want. If an opportunity upon hearing this episode, you were to come across a deal in the next 2 weeks, you're not going to have time to rebuild your credit. So instead, what I would do is I would write down people that you know that want you to be successful, that they know, like, and trust you, and think of them as your human credit cards. And you want to pitch them on, here's the opportunity, here's the interest rate that we're going to negotiate, and they have more power on the say of doing that. The key is you just want access to capital so that you have access to the opportunity that's in front of you. Don't let the credit card system hold you back from what could be a huge, very, very big opportunity.
Thank you. Tell us about the top 7 biggest mistakes of entrepreneurs wanting to retire with money.
Well, I'll tell you the most popular ones and the ones that are most relatable to people. Number one is how much money do I need to have to be able to retire? And I'll tell you a quick story. A client couple came in the office, and they had heard you need X amount of money to retire. A certain percentage while they're working would only be what was needed when they retired, and they were confused. They said, Derrick, there's so many opinions. We trust yours. Tell us how much we actually need. And what I told them was, I want you both to live on a practice retirement budget for the next 3 to 6 months. Now, they were both working, so we set up a direct bill where they would actually have their paychecks direct deposited to a separate checking account, and then we would have that money, the amount they thought they needed per month to live on, only that amount would go from that account directly to their personal account. So now it was just like they were already living a retirement lifestyle. And the purpose was to force feed this to confirm, was it enough or was it not enough? Because if I would just tell them a percentage, it didn't mean anything. I needed them to embrace this and live it. What was shocking was 3 months into this, they said, Derrick, I'm so glad we lived on this practice budget because it taught us we didn't need to live on as much as we thought. They were actually able to retire earlier. But here's the bottom line, is they were able to retire with confidence and much less worry and anxiety because they'd already practiced it. They were simply stepping off into the known, not the unknown, okay? And then the second piece I would tell you, number two biggest mistake is investing too aggressively when you immediately retire, okay? And here's the deal. You've worked hard, let's say for 25, 30, 40 years, and if you take out too much money when you retire and the market goes down simultaneously, it's like a double punch of the stomach. It's like Jake Paul hitting Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson's not coming back up off the mat, okay? And so the bottom line is you want to know how much you need to live on that practice retirement budget, but also know that you can only take out maybe 3 to 4% conservatively out of the principle of what you're living on to make sure you don't run out of money in retirement. We all have worries. When people come to me, they say, Derrick, I want to not worry about money. And so we give them a plan and they start saving. Well, as humans, we all worry about something. And can you imagine how much worry, how much sleepless nights you would have if now you know you're about to run out of money? So you avoid those two things. But also what I would tell you is, don't think today that you have to stop earning money. Back in the day, this old retirement paradigm was, at 65, we all stop working, and now we sit on the back porch and we make wooden things in our garage, and we just watch TV. Those days are gone. Some of the best ideas people have now are cranking up in their brains when they're 70, 75. They're just getting started. And so what I would tell you is, think of it as layering. I want to have a base layer of income from my investments, from my multiple streams of income, possibly the sale of a business, possibly the rent from where I had my business and the new owner bought it. Now they're paying me a monthly rent. All of those are options, but then give yourself the flexibility. And what I would tell you is, if you plan to just camp out at home, you're going to be in a bad zone. You need to be around other people who challenge you, who stimulate you mentally, who motivate you. What I find is, if I'm feeling in a funk, I will immediately schedule coffee with a buddy or somebody I admire. And during that coffee, the coffee costs me $4. I buy theirs, it's $10. My brain becomes a popcorn machine. Man, new ideas start pop, 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 pop. I'm back in the game. And typically a $10 cup of coffee, if spent with the right person, could easily make you 10 grand or 100 grand just on one implementable idea that solves a relatable problem for someone.
Wow. Tell us where entrepreneurs can find you.
Yeah, a couple places. A download that we've got, it's called gettheraiseyouwant.com, gettheraiseyouwant.com, but also on Instagram at Derrick T. Kinney, and on LinkedIn. And our main website is anyonecanbecomeamillionaire.com, where we talk directly to specifically entrepreneurially minded people, those that aspire to be entrepreneurs, those that are there but are stuck, and those that are exceeding faster than their wildest dreams, but they feel like something's missing. And that's where the generosity piece comes in to motivate them to make more money and do more good.
Follow us for more interviews with world's most influential business titans, providing you with the insights to awaken to your full potential, so you can get paid to be yourself, find true happiness, and manifest anything you desire.